stop mentioning the weather. The other thing that's happening this year is now we clearly know there's going to be no Championship and League One, and Super League squads are under massive pressure because of the amount of games that are trying to cram in by the end of the season. And there are some players now moving from Championship teams into the Super League on a short-term loan basis because there are exemptions out there. If somebody came calling for you in a crisis, are you ready and available to play Super League for the remainder of this year?
Yeah, I'm always ready. I thought that they might. I've seen an exemption with Toronto players where you could sign anyone from Toronto. I thought if they weren't going to run a championship, and let's look at the figures. There's some championship sides that just aren't going to be able to compete or fund if they go off the government furlough or whatever it is. That's just reality. So I thought that to strengthen a Super League competition, I know the one thing as a fan of rugby league and not just a player is I was sick of seeing jerseys number 35, 36, and 37 4 weeks into the tournament, like 4 weeks into the competition. Not saying that they're not great up and coming young players, but you want to watch a spectacle. You want to watch some great footy. So I thought just as an idea that they might throw up was just to create anything goes from the championship or anywhere. Sign as many quota players as you want. If you're looking at strengthening squads, I thought that would be a no-brainer, but obviously that's not how it's gone.
If you can play halfback, you can probably get in at Castle with them. It was Grant Millington playing at 6 yesterday against Hull. But I'm guessing in training at Cass, he must have always thought, it's like all these forwards. They all think they're halfbacks. They all think they're smarter than they are, don't they?
He's actually a pretty intelligent bloke, Milo, but no, he's filled in at half a few times. I think he played 6, maybe 3 or 4 times when I was there. And look, he didn't go too bad. He's a warrior, old Milo.
Maybe you just need to be the son of a famous player to play in Super League at the moment, because I think, did we have 4 in this current round? One named Hanley for sure, and then there's O'Connor, a Harrison, and a McNamara. So you'll have to look in your family tree.
Did Hanley play? Did he? The commentator mention him every 2 bloody seconds.
Did you not get the impression that he had? I think he may have made his debut. I'm not sure.
Yeah, something like that. But no, it's good to see all the young players getting a chance. But as I said, I just think the whole year's been a bit of a write-off for the rugby league in general. Changing it to the percentages, which I think that'll going to have to continue with the way the virus is and testing and all that sort of stuff.
So the big question is, 19 kids have made their debut in this midweek round. Clearly, some of them will be given another opportunity with the midweek rounds that we've got to come. But what if you were a young player now and you'd been given your debut, admittedly on pittance of a money, which is something that we need to look at. What is the next step for a really talented young player? Clearly, they're too good for the academy system. Reserve system's been shelved and we're not sure yet whether there's enough players to make that work properly. Dual reg is being tried, but it's not the same at every club. Some clubs do it better than others and some have more reason to do it than others. If you were a 19-year-old being given your first chance this week, would you be concerned that you don't know where your next game's coming from? And as a game, should we be looking at better pathways for young kids?
Potentially, yeah. But the other big issue is players not being able to play for X amount of time. I mean, I know it sort of works on both ends of whatever age you are. For me personally, I'm 31 now. How many good years do I have left in me? If I've had a year off rugby league, when does that finish? But more importantly, for the junior guys, as you said, getting no money, no support from the club really financially. They're playing for peanuts. Where that's enough for a young kid to go, I don't want to play anymore. For me, I'm always going to play. For a 25, 26, 27-year-old, you're always going to continue playing. But a young fella that's 17, 18, 19, that's enough for him to say, right, I'm done with footy. I'm going to go get an apprenticeship. You know what I mean? So I think that's a real key issue that the clubs are going to have, especially when you've got reserves and dual reg and all these things going on. I don't see how dual reg even survives, let alone reserve grade. Super League teams need as many players as they can get right now, and we're going to hand them on to championship clubs. I just don't see how it's all going to work. I've always sort of said that the best way forward is to mimic the NRL with a Super League and a reserve grade. But for the reserve grade to work, the championship needs to either become the reserve grade or need to be scrapped. But the thing is that I learned once I got to England and lived in England is people don't want to let go of that crest. It's a really important thing to them and they value it highly, which I can totally understand. But look, if you want the bigger picture of the game, I think you need Super League and a reserve grade 2 Super League, which would be the championship. But unfortunately, you'd have to lose these crests and these badges that people love so much. But look, that's just my point. That's just my thought.
So you've come up with the perfect solution, but obviously that's not going to happen. It's like promotion, relegation, license versus licensing, and reserve grade versus dual reg and everything. Every single solution that seems to be out there seems to end the dreams, quote, of some clubs, and it seems like we're never going to be able to get past that.
I think if you want expansion, if you want to turn teams into, powerhouses, if you want to get off the bottom of the relegation pile, if you want to improve and progress throughout any of this, you need change, and all great things come with change. So look, people can either bite their lip about it and say, "Oh, I won't support rugby league." If they don't want to support rugby league after they lose their identity or whatever it is, or their crest, or they can't walk down the lane to Post Office Road or wherever they might be going, like, that's just being bitter. You're still going to watch rugby league. You're still going to be a rugby league fan, and to progress. Like, it's the same teams that win Super League each year. It's the same top four. You can pick the results every week. Like, it's just, there's at some stage people have got to get together and go, look, this ain't working.
In terms of the New South Wales League, I'm assuming that's where you started your career and you were picked up by NRL clubs. They have their own identity and their own competition in its own right, but they are genuine feeder clubs of the competition that brings the money in. Is that sort of halfway house model that we should be looking at, that you retain your identity in a separate competition, but all your development is linked to a club that plays in a higher league?
Yeah, so basically the main structure within the NRL is you've got a top 30. So within your top 30 or top 25, they used to call it. So the minimum pay bracket for a top 25 player when I was playing used to be about 45, 50K. That's gone up to now, I think it's going into 100K. So the minimum you can be paid to be in that is 100K. Now, if you think about, you've got a top 30 with 18 playing each week and 19th as a sit by reserve, you've got 11 players that are going to fall back into your reserve grade. There's only a few standalone teams in the New South Wales Cup competition, like Newtown Jets, but they partner with the Sydney Roosters. So basically, Newtown Jets, like where you're like Jackson Hastings and stuff for playing, they'll have 11 players that are in and around a first grade system that really works under the correct coaches and around the right players they need to be around, and they'll fall back into the same competition every week. So really, the structure and the plays and the dialogue and everything that you need to follow with Newtown is the same as the Sydney Roosters. Vice versa with, say, West Tigers. Their reserve grade is called West Tigers or West Magpies or whatever it may be. But it's the same system, the same structure. But what we're doing is we're sending 2 players to Bradford and 3 players to Featherston, and I want this player down here, and this guy's young and you can take him. How much money can I get from these young players? Just send them all out and then hope for the best. But really, where's the upside to that? The upside is if the young 19-year-old kid goes and kills it, the club doesn't have enough money to pay his next year's contract and he leaves. I mean, it's just...
Or you become a finishing school for rugby union or the NRL. I mean, we saw one of the kids who played for Wigan this week, Harry Rushton. If he hadn't made his debut, he would have been going to Canberra before he'd even made the Wigan first.
Exactly.
And again, whatever it's cost to get him to that point in his career is money you never get back. So is this the time? And we talked about it a lot on these programs and in the magazine. And I know you've been on Twitter about it as well. Big, deep thinker about the game. Is this a blank sheet of paper moment? The things we're talking about, feeder systems, not necessarily clubs, how you move ahead with quotas, relegation, promotion, payment for players. Should this now be the sole focus of the sport for the next 3 or 4 months, to come up with a new version of it for when we do fully restart?
I think so, but I also think like the core of it all, of how everything comes about, needs to change as well. I mean, rugby league, you look at it, you see things happening on football, and look, I know we don't really compare it because football's got all the money in the world and whatever, but just how it all goes about. We've got a meeting scheduled for the 12th, and people will find out, and then the 12th comes and it goes, and no one knows anything, and no one's none the wiser. I mean, I just think something needs to happen. Something needs to change in order for the game to grow. We cannot just keep sitting here doing the exact same thing in the exact same position, the exact same situation, and with no benefits. I mean, that's not just players, that's clubs, that's fans, that's everyone. I think just big changes need to happen, and if they don't, we're no better, we're no worse off than what we are.
Is it purely that people are scared, and it goes back to what you were saying earlier, Jai, that their crest won't exist anymore if we do make changes, and they don't want to lose that identity that we have to keep doing what we keep doing. I imagine if you're on the field and you played the same way every single set in a match, you're going to get found out very quickly by your opponents, and it's the same off the field as well.
It's exactly the same. I mean, I can fully understand that would be a bitter pill to swallow, to lose your crest. But like other teams have done it. I mean, West Tigers merged with Magpies, and then they won a grand final in 2005. I mean, these things happen, and teams grow and they get better, and teams either sit there and struggle or do something that's going to change for the better. I think I'd like to see a Cumbrian team. I don't know why they haven't merged, and obviously it's because they've got that rivalry and that they don't want to lose that crest. But they would be, instead of being two bottom teams, they would be a strong mid-table to up their championship team. Do you know what I mean? But it just doesn't happen. It's strange. I don't want to sound like I'm that Aussie guy just bashing UK Rugby League, but it just seems a lot of people are stuck in their ways about change. They don't want it. They want to complain about it, but they don't want it to happen.